Last week, you all saw my first few rides on the Mondraker Super Foxy R, and I shared some of my own initial thoughts about the Spanish Enduro bike. This week, I thought it'd be fun to get some new opinions about this very unique bike. To do this, I'm visiting the same trails with the same bike, one day for Mike to ride it, and on the next day for Simon. We're all the same height, at about 5'8" or 174 centimeters, and we all ride size medium bikes. Each rider had a full day on the bike. What makes this particularly interesting is that while Mike is a more advanced rider, Simon is a less advanced rider, though he definitely has just as much fun. With the differing ability levels, I think it's a relevant quandary to see if this will affect each rider's overall experiences of riding one of the longest, most aggressive bikes that's currently available. Before we see how Mike and Simon get along with the Mondraker Super Foxy R, I want to give a big thank you to Jensen USA who made this video possible. Thank you, Jensen. Jensen is a leading online retailer here in the United States, and they have complete bikes not just from Mondraker, but also from Orbea, Yeti, Ibis, Norco, Niner, and a bunch of other really solid brands. If you want to learn more about the Mondraker Super Foxy R, I've got a link to it in the description just below. It takes you over to Jensen USA, and anything you purchase while you're at Jensen's website will help support my channel. It's a big part of how I make these videos happen. I'm also supported by P&W Components and Industry 9, and I've got links to their stuff over at Jensen as well in the description just below. I've also got a new supporter, Remedy Supply Co., and we've got a limited edition discount code running, so if you want to check that out, also hit the show more button just beneath this video here. All right, let's go see how everyone's getting along with the new Mondraker on some very fun trails. My buddy here is a very experienced rider, races expert and pro class at occasional events. Am I right? Am I wrong? Yeah.
Over the years?
And he's a fantastic rider. I've known this fellow for a good 10 years. So everyone meet Mike Kent.
Almost 20.
Almost 20. Don't date us. Which bike are you riding the most right now?
Stump Jumper Evo.
Okay.
The newest one.
And that's a pretty modern, pretty big bike. What size is it?
It's a size 3.
It's a size 3. And we're similar heights. How tall are you?
Yeah, 5'8" in the morning.
Okay, cool. And I'm 5'8" as well. Without further ado, let's take a look at what you're going to be riding today.
Let's check it out.
How are you feeling? Are you nervous?
So stoked.
You just basically handed me this bike. I did no research. I had no idea what I was getting into.
Stoked, not nervous. Okay. It barely fits in the van, but there we go. This is the longest bike I have ever seen in person besides the Grim Donut over at Pivot.
This is nuts.
This is the Mondraker Super Foxy R. We'll get the setup for you and your weight, and then we'll see what you think.
Let's get after it.
Yeah. Before we even do your pedals, I'm curious what your initial thoughts are.
It actually doesn't feel that crazy long.
We were just here, same place, same time of the day, with our other friend Mike, and he's a super advanced rider. And how long have you been mountain biking for?
How long? Oh, 30 plus years.
Okay, and what ability level would you call yourself?
Oh, mediocre at best.
Mediocre at best, perfect. You're much more regular dude on bike, and then Mike is like pretty darn advanced. So I think it'd be interesting to hear your perspective of this bike, because it is pretty different than like the two Ibises I brought that I ride all the time.
Yep.
What's your daily driver for a bike?
My daily driver is also an Ibis.
Okay.
I'm on a HD5.
Cool.
So it's just, like travel-wise, pretty similar.
Yeah.
But that's a 27.5, so it's a little bit smaller. It's not as long, not quite as long.
We should throw on your pedals, set the suspension up for you. We'll get all the controls set to where you like them, and then we'll go play in the rain a little bit. I know you're from England, but you're riding American brakes,
Yeah.
and you're used to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Decent?
Right there.
Okay.
That's gonna make the difference.
Do you want to move the bars for after anything?
Nah.
Okay. Okay, and then let's check sag. We might want to toss a little more air in here. So Mike had it at 155, we'll go to 175. I think I had it at 180 something. For Mike, and as well as for Simon, we took a little bit of time in the parking lot to set the Mondraker up with the correct sag and to adjust all the controls and get him somewhat dialed in. Now, when we were riding with Mike here, it was actually a really nice and pleasant day. But Mike's from California, so he's used to this kind of thing. Luckily with Simon, he's from England, so he's used to the slop and the wet. Today you rode the Mondraker Super Foxy R. How'd it go?
It was good. I don't switch bikes that much, so there was some learning to be done for sure.
Some learning to be done.
Some learning to be done, right? Adapting. New bike, new trails, drinking from the fire hose a little bit of pressure riding with you because we haven't ridden in a while. But all that said, it works pretty good. Like the fit for me was actually okay.
Cool.
One of the things that was interesting is it just kind of felt slower than I'm used to. Just in general, like I'd go to put in some pedals.
Sure.
And it was just like, we aren't going anywhere.
Those words are straight out of Mike's mouth right away, and I don't want to dilute his opinion, so I'm going to leave him in the video, but I do want to qualify this slightly. This bike is using downhill casing tires, and Mike's personal bike is using essentially double down casing tires, so there's a full pound of rotational weight added to the Mondraker that his own bike doesn't have.
I got along with the bike pretty well, but I definitely like got sideways into a couple situations and rode it out fine.
Yep, I remember that.
Which is, I think, a testament to a stable bike.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't like trying to kill me. And so we got along pretty well that way.
At one point, Mike accidentally rode off about a waist-high ledge, and he survived the occasion.
I went here, like right across here.
Wow.
Like, there was a giant hole right here. I was like that, and then totally exploded.
Now let's check back in on how the ride is going with Simon. Admittedly, this is a different pace than the ride with Mike, but I'm still very curious to hear what Simon thinks about a bike that's this extreme. Today, we threw you on the Mondraker Super Foxy R.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming along and riding it. I appreciate it.
Oh, it was a pleasure.
Would you rather be riding a bike to its full potential, maybe pushing it into the sketchy zone, or would you rather have a bike that's so capable that you rarely get to its max potential?
Ooh. I mean, I'm rarely going to take a bike to its max potential. I'm excellent at riding to my potential of not getting injured.
Not getting injured, that's
yeah,
important.
so, but as a result, I don't necessarily push myself or progress as much as a lot of people probably want to. I'm not a racer. I'm not trying to be the fastest person on the mountain.
So I call this the medium hard line because even though it's definitely chunky and in real life it looks a little intimidating, there's not, like once you make it onto here, you can kind of hammer through, and once you get up onto that ledge where Simon's walking, it rides pretty straightforward. In Arizona, they wouldn't notice this climb, but it also wouldn't be wet. So the rock itself is okay grippy. It's just the mud in between all the rocks. That's where you get a little bit of a traction challenge. But luckily the Mondraker has a big old tractor tire in back. It has a Maxxis Dissector with a good soft rubber compound.
Okay, so you're saying if I don't make it, it's specifically me?
No, I'm not saying that. When we got to that tech climb, there was an easier tech climb and then a harder tech climb. What did you think about pedaling up the quote-unquote easier tech climb on this thing?
It actually worked pretty well. I've been riding a horse-to-link bike without much anti-squat recently, and so I've gotten more used to pedaling circles and pedaling smooth and not expecting it to bite and dig as I go. So I think that's actually improved my climbing some, instead of relying on the bike like digging.
You got a smoother pedal stroke.
Yeah, so my pedal stroke smoothed out quite a bit and I kind of float. So when we first rolled up to it, I just like pedaled right up.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a big deal. So yeah, I think it actually like climbed okay. We haven't like tried some real techie climbs, and I wasn't.
Tried one real techie.
Well, that was like
we have like 20% hard and like 98% hard.
for sure. Yes, but I think the climbing was okay. The pedaling was okay. You know, we've done a fair amount of single track climbing around here, and I saw you on the Nolly have like a little wheel spin, and generally I didn't have the wheel spin that you did. Was my observation.
Back tires too.
Okay.
When we started off, it was immediately up a big hill.
Yeah.
How'd you like climbing on this sled?
Climbing, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I thought it was going to climb awful, to be honest.
Okay.
That wasn't really based off anything. I just decided in my head, but it was, you know, it's got so much travel, etc., etc. So, yeah, it climbs good overall, better than expected. Obviously, as I'm sure you're going to bring up, there's one section where one of us struggled. The other of us made it up just fine, but that was the only section. Everything else it did just fine on. And you weren't recording those bits, but I held your wheel on multiple other sections. Just putting it out there.
Good effort, good effort.
I hate this rock. I hate it with all my heart.
Yes, it's tricky. Yes, it's tricky on this bike. Yes, it's tricky on that bike. So we shouldn't freak out too much about technical climb.
Right, it's, there's a reason you brought me.
We need a different data point. We got Mike, we got me or whatever. We need someone more relatable. When it comes to jumping this thing, we didn't hit a ton of we didn't hit any man-made jumps today, but we hit a few little natural kickers here and there. How'd you feel once you got airborne, or were working on getting airborne?
Again, not in my environment, and some of the jumps that would have been rad, like, looked sketchy to me. Like the top one, where it was like the root line, the first one where it was like root line into the rock, and then there's a hole and you had to double that. Right, the jump's on the left side.
Oh, the one where you almost went over the bars.
Yeah, where I like did the front end pogo.
Yeah.
That one, I was just like not comfortable with the environment.
Yeah.
And so like putting a jump into the bike, like that was just a no-go.
Much too soon.
Yeah, it was a no-go.
Fair, totally fair.
Where the other one where we had 2 jumps, there was a clear line of sight.
Yeah.
Like I felt fine once the bike was in the air. It was okay. Again, that's not like jumping isn't my strong point in the first place. I'm more like a low and fast guy rather than like a high and playful.
Before we even got to the top of the hill, we tried this fun little drop off. That was your first experience pointing this thing down a hill. Take me through your drop off experiences.
Super comfortable. I mean, it goes in a straight line really well, and it was super cush just going. I mean, again, it wasn't a big drop, but it felt really comfortable. So the next time I stepped it up a little bit, and again, same thing. So pointing it and going in a straight line down things and off things, that felt super natural.
How was this thing through the tight corners?
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't have complained about that chicane.
Okay.
Like I wouldn't have complained about that compared to where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Interesting.
Granted, where I'm coming from
is a different data point. But
is a data point.
A specialized stump jumper is a very common bike. Now the Evo version, I wonder how common that is. So if anyone here is riding a stump jumper Evo, drop us a note in the comments down below. If you don't know what we're talking about, also let us know.
I'm gonna wager 50% of the people out there are riding those bikes.
Yeah, okay.
It's crazy.
Cool. But now we have all this chatting about straight lines. I took us to the least straight line trail I know about in definitely the county. So slamming this thing through those tight little turns. I did a run or two through it on this bike. What was your opinion of that tight little slalom track on this thing?
I mean, fine with it. Again, sight unseen trail.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm familiar. I wouldn't be slashing around with it on any bike at this point. For me, it felt fine, but I don't have a ton of comparison. And I did 2 different lines on it. So I tried doing your kind of a high line on the first time and decided that definitely wasn't for me. Okay. And then I did a lower line second time. That felt a little bit better. And then you followed me down it, I think, on one of the runs too. So yeah, again, it was fine, but for me at my cadence, at my speed, it does the job.
It does the job.
It was fun. I mean, it wasn't until a couple of the hairpins that I noticed how long the wheelbase was. Like specifically be like, oh, this is a little bit harder to turn, but again, a little bit. It's a smidge. It's not a deal breaker.
So did you notice in the cornering where you needed to put your body weight on the bike?
Ooh, I know where I need to correct. So needs to be a little bit further forward, and I could ride it like. I think, honestly, it needs to be ridden more aggressively.
What I was noticing is in our last descent going down that high speed kind of creek bed straightaway thing, I definitely got, actually, so that's the thing, is I definitely end up feeling a little behind the bike sometimes.
Okay.
And I think that might have to do with the suspension setup, like kind of a fast rebound, a fast high speed rebound. I'm used to a pretty slow high speed rebound with like a more dead planted feeling, and I'm just like adapted to that.
Okay.
Where this was like, it just felt a lot pingier, and I was just feeling loose.
Yeah.
Where normally I think, like I come from a place with loose rocks, and I'm used to riding loose rocks fast, and that was kind of surprising for me how it was feeling.
Well, then we got to an interesting little synthesis of all this stuff. So the chicane, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a fun section because you have not mandatory, but show off jump. And then I like to hit that jump into the bank and then slalom through.
Right.
Yeah, and I like that section because it forces you to not go crazy fast because it has turns and it's loose, but it has a little spice to it.
Yeah.
So, and it's dynamic. There's a lot happening on your bike through that section. What did you think going through that on the Mondraker?
Yeah, I felt okay with it. Again, so there were some issues, as some of the footage might show. Maybe it won't, but
So when you came off the trail, you said it was definitely sketchy. And then we saw the footage and we're like, sketchy, I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad, right? So I think ultimately I was still stable and I was still upright, and it could absorb every mistake that I made going through that section without me flailing off the bike. So something else might have led to more consequence. But I was able to recover and get back onto the trail and ride the rest of it out.
What was the comparison between your personal bike and this through a section like that chicane?
I didn't notice a big difference on it, other than the fact that I was aware of getting it wrong, and aware of being able to ride the whole way through it. So again, the big wheels probably helped me keep rolling.
Would you have gone offline in the first place on the little bike?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't know, I probably would have.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Oh, yes. The seat post.
The seat post is a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem. Like, the amount of drop that you get per leg length, per frame size or whatever, there's a solid 25 millimeters left there on the table, at least.
At least,
At least.
I'm surprised you weren't asking to drop this thing into the frame again after I forced you to put it down in there at the rock roll. At that little rock roll, I figured having the seat down was going to make everything way safer and smoother because the bike's pretty steep as you're pumping down it.
Yeah.
So for me, my riding style, I absolutely love having the seat way out of the way. So I'm surprised you put it back up and then left it back up for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think on my bike, my saddle's nominally lower. Like, I have a better situation going on.
Much what's your current drop?
150.
150 drop.
On an S3 Specialized.
And I would be disappointed with a 150 drop.
Yeah, and that's on like a 30-inch inseam.
But you just made it over this a couple times with the seat post to be at cross-country climbing height when it's extended.
Yes.
Did you want to try dropping that down lower for more clearance so you can do stuff like this more easily?
I don't think that's the limit right now.
That's not the limit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just like breathing and fitness.
Yeah.
And like just feeling weird on the bike.
We don't really have much uphill for a while, so can I forcibly lower it and then you can tell me if it made a difference or not?
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. How did the seat post clearance feel?
It's good. Like you said, it's always helpful to have more drop, and it really doesn't have much in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's like 125. I'm used to 150.
Actually, something super interesting is I never buzzed my butt on this tire today.
Oh, wow.
And like, I buzz my butt many times a ride normally,
Huh.
like on my bike.
Huh.
And so that's just whatever for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Do you?
Not very often, no.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm kind of riding more in the middle of the bike, but I ride very low and kind of flat-ish. So that's why my GoPro footage always looks fast, because my GoPro is actually very close to the ground because of my body positioning when I'm riding. It's not that I'm actually going crazy fast or anything.
Again, I mean, it's a fun ride.
Yeah.
There's nothing about it that, you know, other than, you know, I'm not a big fan of purple. But,
You don't love the purple, okay.
yeah.
Cool, that's valid.
Yeah, we had this debate earlier. I like the skinny top tube. I think it's,
That is cool.
is it necessary? I don't know, but it looks cool.
I have a lot of fun on this bike, and it's very different than the rest of my bikes, but I wouldn't want only this as my one and only bike.
Yeah, it's not a quiver killer.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, I'd
but-
want to have like the aggressive hardtail or whatever, or a short travel, snappier trail bike in addition to something bigger.
Yeah.
I think it's quite a looker.
Yeah, it does look really good.
I think it looks amazing.
Yeah.
It's like just very distinctive. It's a unique bike. I'm not a super purple guy, but
But it's not overly purple, it's just a little bit.
And I'm that age. so the purple, I think it's a very well color spec'd bike. Like, the colorway is really good.
I do like how thin this top tube is, and then there's some cool lines in there for sure. The industrial design is pretty cool.
Yeah.
There was a couple steeper parts there that we didn't film with the big camera, but I did get them on GoPro. You didn't really seem fazed at all by those.
Yeah, I don't mind about that. I mean, this bike's great for that too. Again,
Yeah.
it's long. It's got, like, the angles are good for it. Okay.
Simon, thank you for coming out and trying this thing.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Hope I was able to teach you a couple of things.
I hope so.
You're welcome.
I'm curious what the audience thinks, because I've done so many of these bike review videos, like, I'll go ride this bike around and check it out, guys.
Yeah.
And like, is that relevant? I don't think so.
No, I appreciate giving mediocrity a voice.
I think it's important. And I'm like,
Me too.
maybe it'll work. Maybe no one will watch this video. I don't know. But
Yeah.
there.
Well, if I've ruined your brand, I'm real sorry.
No, I'm not worried about that. Thanks again. I appreciate it. You did a great job today.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks for coming out here and trying out the Mondraker.
Yeah, buddy.
Thanks for sending it in front of the camera however many dozens of times.
It's all part of the process. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
first time I've done a bike test or review or whatever with someone that's not just myself, or get Logan's 2 cents as well. So this is good. If you guys like this format of hearing other folks' opinions of these bikes, let us know in the comments down below. Maybe we'll turn over a new leaf for the new year here. Just put a stick on it so it stays. Okay, a leaf has been turned over. And if you guys really enjoyed this video, hit the red subscribe button because just about every week or so, there's something similar to this coming out. Thank you, everyone. Everyone say thanks to Logan for filming and offering his 2 cents. And we'll see you guys in the next video, which will be linked to over there somewhere. Yes. All right. Bye, everyone. Peace.